The past couple decades or so, the Toyota Land Cruiser has made a name for itself for being one of the toughest cars out there. However, one main problem with the Toyota Land Cruiser is that it usually takes a couple of while before a new model comes out. But after more than a decade or so of having to deal with the LC200, we finally have the new one right here. Here we have the 2022 Toyota Land Cruiser ZX. This is the LC300. Today I'm going to show you around this car and I'm also going to give it a test drive, so stay tuned. Starting from the exterior of the LC300. Now honestly, the grille, it's an all-new grille. It's bigger than ever. However, personally, I do think that it is quite similar to a lot of those aftermarket kits you would get for the LC200. The badge is also really big. You have so much chrome on this as well. You have the same kink in the hood that you will get with the 200. Apparently, Toyota did this so that you can kind of see what's ahead of you, especially when you're off-roading. Now here you get LED headlight. These also automatically dim if there's a car ahead of you. Your fog lights, they are also LEDs and they are also surrounded by chrome. Now this entire front face, it's not really that Toyota looking anymore. Honestly, it's quite similar even to an Escalade, so this seems to be a thing with these new large SUVs. From the side, you can immediately tell that this is still a Land Cruiser, so it just looks pretty much just like a Land Cruiser from before. However, you have some hints of its baby brother, the Toyota Prado, where so here on the third window, you can see that it kind of curves up like that, which just looks a lot similar to the Prado. All around the side of this car, you have lots of chrome all across the windows. You get chrome on the huge wing mirror, which by the way has repeaters as well and blind spot monitoring. Then you also get chrome on your door handles right here. For your tires, these are 265/5520s, but you only get this for the ZX trim. The lower trim only gets 18-inch rims. Then also for the ZX trim, you get a full step board on this one. For your fenders, you get some more lines on both of them, and they are all fat and macho looking. Up top, the roof rail also, it's just all black, so it gives you a little bit of contrast. Not bad. Here at the back, the Land Cruiser badge is now stuck on individually per letter. I like that look. The Toyota badge is bigger than ever. You get sequential turn signals on here, plus LED taillights. You got more chrome down here, and you also got a place to put a tow hook. To open this up, unfortunately, you no longer have a split tailgate, so you just press over there. This one opens up, and back here, as you can see, with the third row seat up, number one, you can't really see much when you're driving, but you can just drop this headrest right here by pulling this. But you don't really have that much space. It's only like 12 inches or so of space. But if you do fold it down, you have a much bigger and a cavernous loading area back here. Now also for the first time, Toyota made way with those seats that fold to the side. So you finally have these buttons to the side, which can fold these seats down electrically. Now, it's not the fastest, but it's a one-step process. You just hold this as if you're holding a power window switch. It goes down like that, and that is huge. As for other toys back here, you still do get two speakers back here by the tailgate. You also have a charging port back here as well. Under the hood of the LC300, you have this 3.3-liter twin turbocharged diesel engine making 306 horsepower and 700 newton meters of torque. Now, despite this being smaller in displacement and also just a V6 compared to the V8 before, this pumps out way more power and is mated to a 10-speed automatic transmission. Here inside the LC300, door thud check. One of the best for a Japanese car. Start the car up. It has push button, but it is up top, so it is kind of odd. Inside the interior of the LC300, it's definitely a huge step up from the LC200. So the LC200 had an interior, it's like a slightly more premium version of a Fortuner, but this one right here, it is closer to a Lexus. For example, this screen right here up top, which is a 12.3-inch touchscreen, number one, it looks exactly like a Lexus. It's also as responsive. You also get sat nav on it. And it's also really, really crisp. I really like the look of it. You also get Apple CarPlay and Android Auto for this one. Your air vents are all very sturdy feeling. You're sure that they won't break even in a long time. You get your AC settings over here. It's dual zone. You also get heated and cooled seats for this one. These buttons to the middle, they are kind of Lambo inspired and they feel really nice to the touch as well. Below that, you have a CD player. kind of odd for 2021 or 2022. You get your drive mode selection switch, and you have like 6 different driving modes for this one. That's crazy. Your shifter, it's just a traditional shifter with manual shifting. You have an electronic parking brake with auto hold. You have a wireless charging pad, couple of USB ports over here. Then you also have your off-road aids, including your diff locker. You have the biggest cup holders in any car that I've ever seen, and what's cool about it is that if you have tall drinks, you can just pull this one up and it goes all the way down just like that, so you can really put really tall cups in this one. This center armrest is also nice leather, and you can open it from either side just like an Alphard or an S-Class, and it even has a cool box inside. Now, the materials in this car, they are absolutely supple. Up top, you have nice soft leather, to the side as well, and you have a lot of these like finished texture wood to it. It's not quite sure if it's real wood, but it does feel really nice. Your steering wheel, it is leather covered, also really supple. You have machine cut wood for this ZX trim. It's also power adjustable together with your memory seats. And your instrument cluster, it has a nice Optitron-like effect with a 7-inch multi-information display to the center. Now, the seats in the car, they are really comfortable, way more comfortable than the LC200. It's really soft too, and as mentioned earlier, they are both heated and cooled, so it's easy to find your perfect driving position with this one, because you also have 8-way power adjustable for the driver's side and 6-way for the passenger. The speakers in this car, it comes with a 14-speaker JBL sound system as opposed to the 10 with the lower trim. However, honestly, it's not exactly the best. I mean, it is pretty good, but I expected better. Up top, you also have a huge sunroof for this one. Now, for safety, you get so much airbags on this one, including a knee airbag for the driver and also the passenger. Here at the second row, door thud check. Also pretty good. Now, back here, this is most probably where you'll be spending most of your time if you are an owner of a Land Cruiser. Chances are you will be chauffeur driven. So back here, it is really good. Now, legroom is obviously amazing. Headroom is also really good. You get LED lights too for when you're reading. And they finally fixed the biggest problem with the LC200. While the LC200 has just about the same legroom as this one, the main problem with that car is that you can't seem to stick your feet under the driver's seat. The driver's seat seems to be super low to the ground even if you raise it all the way up. But with this one, you can finally do it, so you can like lounge back like that, and you can also recline your seats just a little bit to give you a little bit more comfort. For your toys back here, not to worry, you have an armrest over here with 2 big cup holders as well. It's also nice and soft. It's really comfortable. Up top, you have your own air vent. You have 2 more air vents to the middle. You also have your own dual climate control for the back, so it's a total of 4 for this car. You can even adjust your fan speed, and your seats are also both heated and cooled. For your charging ports, you have 2 back here. They are USB-C, so that is quite interesting. And you also have a 12-volt outlet. Now, can you see 3 people back here? Obviously so. It is a Land Cruiser. And yes, you can easily do that. Your headroom is great as well. It's super wide. The only problem here is that the center tunnel, it's not exactly the highest, but you still do kind of like, you're a bit twisted back here. So you kind of have to go akimbo. If you do put your feet to the side, well, yeah, make sure you don't wear skirts. Getting to the third row of the LC300 is quite similar to a Fortuner. So it's just a one-touch thing, and this entire thing tumbles, and it's quite easy to get in because you do have a grab handle. And once you're in here, you'll be pleasantly surprised because legroom is great. I have around 2 inches or so of legroom, and this is with the seat reclined all the way. My headroom is also really good. However, I am only 5'6", so if you are a bit taller, maybe you're going to start to struggle with headroom. Unfortunately, now, this one, since it doesn't fold to the side anymore, you don't have that center seat anymore, so this is now strictly a 2-seater. And it's still not as great for carrying adults as, let's say, a Ford Expedition. Now, if you're worried about having to tumble the third row from the back, well, not to worry, because you can also do it from here as well. You have your own buttons. You also have this button right here to recline your seat, but it only goes, well, until the recline can go. You also have your own USB-C charging port back here, and 2 tiny cup holders plus an unknown cubby here. So driving the 2022 Toyota Land Cruiser ZX LC300. This thing is a huge leap from the LC200. While the LC200 is a rather refined car, I wouldn't say that it's unrefined in any way. However, this thing just takes it up a notch. This thing is just one refined cruiser. I think the best way to describe this car is that it feels more like a crossover than a traditional SUV. Don't get me wrong, it is still a ladder-on frame construction. However, the general dynamics of the car is just way more nimble. It's way more comfortable on road. Not quite sure about the off-road performance, although Toyota does reassure us that it's even better than ever off-road. Now this car right here is equipped with what Toyota calls like electronic, kinetic, whatever, variable dampers thing with the suspension. What that means is that just through your drive mode selection switch, which by the way, you have a lot of Eco, Comfort, Normal, Sport, Sport, S Plus, and Custom, you can easily adjust everything in the car. So the dampening is definitely much better. It's much more comfortable if you put it, well, in normal comfort or eco mode, put it in sport mode or the Sport Plus, and it does get a little bit jerkier. But what it gives you instead with your sport mode is you get super increased, throttle input. And the sensitivity of the throttle just increases so much. This thing is fast. Now you might think that this is one huge beast that's almost as big as the LC300 with a smaller engine, but I do reassure you that it is a lot faster and has way more power, way more usable power than the LC300 for that. This still uses a hydraulic power steering system. However, it does have what they call some sort of like electronic actuators for your steering wheel. So I'm not quite sure what that exactly means, but it does translate to a steering feel that, as expected from a Land Cruiser, it is rather vague. However, it's a lot lighter than before, so you will not feel like you're driving a big barge, at least when it comes to the steering in this car. However, the general heft of the car will still get at you. The very moment I took this out from casa, it was so hard to drive. Like, I'm used to driving an Expedition, the first gen Expedition, and I drive my W140 S-Class a lot, so I think it's fair to say that I am quite used to driving large vehicles, but this thing is just, it's wide. The length of this car won't exactly get you. Parking this car is also relatively easy because of your reverse sensors and your really huge reverse cameras plus front sensors and camera. However, it's really just the width of this car. Now let's rolling launch this car. And yes, it is really fast. Of course, it doesn't rev high, it is a diesel, but it really does get up to motorway speeds really, really quick. This engine right here, which pushes out like 306 horsepower, is a lot more than what you used to get with the V8 and the LC300. And the fact that it's coupled with the 10-speed automatic transmission makes it really smooth. Now, this is a diesel. However, it really does not feel like a diesel. Sure, you get all that 700 Newton meters of beautiful torque, but it is really smooth. Like, sure, there's also that diesel sound, but it's not annoying in any way. It's just as if you're driving a slightly older gasoline engine. It's incredibly refined. It knows when to upshift, when to downshift. The LC300 also comes equipped, finally, with a heads-up display. Now, this heads-up display can be configured height-wise, depending on how tall you are, and can also be configured rotation-wise. And it not only displays your speed, but it also displays your tachometer. And it's also very flexible because you can also configure it to show you your fuel economy. Now, speaking of fuel economy, here on the city, this car does around anywhere between 4 to 7 kilometers per liter. So let's give it about an average of 5.5. And that's not bad given the heft of this car and how much power you get. Now, one thing I love about Land Cruisers compared to their Lexus LX counterparts is that the LX versions, they tend to have like hydraulic suspension, which has a tendency to crash. The back part of it has a tendency to crash after you go through a speed bump. However, since this one right here, although it has variable dampers, it does not have air nor, hydraulic suspension. So that means that even if you go over like really bad and tall speed bumps, it does not crash. So it makes it really, really comfortable. Now, over speed bumps and potholes, this thing is just sublime. It's one of the most comfortable SUVs I've ever rode in when it comes to the harshness. Now, NVH wise, we've already talked about harshness. Noise, it's very much subdued. Aside from the slight diesel groan, your wind noise is surprisingly good despite having large wing mirrors. Then vibrations,
again, despite having a diesel engine, there's really not much vibrations in this car. It is quite a sublime experience. The seat support in the LC300 is also excellent. Sure, your lumbar support only goes forward and backwards. It doesn't go up and down, but that's absolutely fine because the rest of the seat provides great support all around you. Toyota claims that the LC300 is up to 200 kilograms lighter than the outgoing model, and they also claim that it's a lot more rigid. Now, despite that, do not expect this car to handle well because it's still one huge barge. So body roll is a lot less than the LC200, but there's still a big amount of body roll in this car, so do not push it over corners. Now that we're here on the motorway, as you can see, I am keeping my hands off the wheel. That's because this car already has adaptive cruise control with the lane tracing assist, so it follows the lane marker's head and even turns with the curve, and it's pretty cool. It's kind of scary, honestly, but yeah, it's just telling me to put my hand on the wheel to touch the wheel once in a while. Then after that, it just follows the lane. It's really amazing. A lot of cars, it'll just bounce you off from the marker on the left to the right, but this one, it keeps you dead center. Now here on the motorway, it's really comfortable. I mean, this thing, I didn't expect NVH to be that much better than the LC200, but this thing is just absolutely magnificent. This is one giant luxury cruiser. You can take this car for really long journeys and you will not get fatigued at all. It's just incredibly quiet in here. Wind noise, tire noise are all kept to a bare minimum. Fuel economy on the highway returns me around an average of 10.5 kilometers per liter, and that's with me flooring the gas once in a while to overtake. By once in a while, I mean a lot. So overall, for a big SUV like this, that fuel economy figure is really not bad. If you do have to overtake, you just floor the gas, and yeah, the transmission doesn't hesitate for a second. It's a very crisp transmission. Now in the city, sometimes it kind of has a slight hesitation, has a little bit of that dual clutch feel to it, especially on inclines. But here on the highway, it's really quick. No complaints with this one. At 5.600 plus million pesos, the Toyota Land Cruiser is a great choice for when you're looking for a full-size SUV. Now, sure, that price might sound like a lot, but if you think about it, that price is only just about the price of a mid-sized German SUV, and usually those are even crossovers. But if you really want something that can even go off-road if you have to, this one right here offers amazing value. It's even better than, let's say, the Nissan Patrol, which is starting to show its age nowadays.